Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy, Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the station or the host. Always consult with your primary care physician about any medical issues, and also consult with your attorney about any legal matters. Folks, I have a very special guest on today. And when I first met George Ackerman, I saw a video of him, and I said, I have got to have him on my show. That was 2 years ago. George and I have a special connection. His mom, the beautiful Sharon Ruth Ackerman, died on January 1st, 2020, the same day that my Matt died. We had that bond. It's an unfortunate bond, but that's what I think drew us to each other. And as soon as I heard George talk about his mom and how he wants to bring awareness to Parkinson's, I had to get to know him. And I just love George. He's like an adopted son to me. And I just adore him and what he does to keep his mother's memory alive. And before I forget, this show today is dedicated in memory of Sharon Ruth Ackerman. George Ackerman is a professor. He has a PhD. He's a lawyer. He is a police officer on reserve, very busy guy. He is founder of a group Together for Sharon in memory of his mother. And George is constantly working to voice awareness and hope for a cure for Parkinson's disease. And I'll tell you, folks, I interviewed doctors 2 years ago. Parkinson's is getting up right there with Alzheimer's. There's not a cure. More people are going to get this. You're going to see this. And we need to talk about it. And that's what George is going to talk about, whatever he wants to talk about. So I want to welcome Dr. George Ackerman to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome back,
Thanks.
George.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I want to thank you for all your work and also all your viewers, because without all of you helping spread awareness, we can't do what we need to do. We need to all work together. It's unfortunately the team that you really never wanted to be on, but we're here and we have to make it positive. And my main goal, not just speaking today, but from the rest of my life, is to make sure every individual with Parkinson's or knows that there's someone like me out there really still advocating. And unfortunately, it's too late for a cure for my mother, but never want others to have to go through it. And also today, hopefully, we can touch a little bit about the caretakers, because I was kind of thrown in without any experience and without any knowledge of what was ahead with my mother. And the last year, as you had, was tragic, something that I had my wife, but I was really felt alone a lot of the days, trying to do anything and everything, literally traded it like a law school career, and was made a list of what to do and who to go to, who to see, what to try next. Never slept trying to find something, and unfortunately, I know I didn't fail, but some days I still feel like, I failed, because today we still don't have a cure. And my mother, she was about 69 when she passed, so I always think she should have lived these days in this technology at least to 85 or longer, and she never got that chance. So I always say at least when she's 85 or a little older, it would have been fair. But I felt like we got those many years, decades stolen. And I have 3 children, and one of them likely won't remember her grandmother, his grandma.
How old was your mom when she was diagnosed?
Yeah, it's a great question. She had it, we think, about 15 years, but the odd thing is she never had the external tremor, so she had lack of ability to use her left arm a lot, but no one really knew what it was. They said Parkinson, but I really wasn't as involved because I didn't know anything about it. I knew she was still, with us, still eating out, still independent. She lived alone. She drove. She shopped. She did everything like her whole life. as a single mom. She was divorced, but so I never had a notion that I had to take over her banking and her everything. But the last year was something happened. My father took her to a research study, which we should never have done, unfortunately, at University of Florida. Would have named doctors and things, but she went there. They changed her medicines, and all of a sudden that night she ended up, I think I told you that story, but I got a call at 2 or 3 a.m. that my mother is moving her furniture out of her house, and she thought there were Nazis in her house. So the dementia set in and the Parkinson's, and I found her, outside, and she was really scared, and it was just I'd say one of the worst nights of my life as a son, to see your mother in pain and suffering. And that was the first night everything changed. I had to rush her to the emergency room, and they said she actually would have passed away, but she had a UTI, and also all the signs of all the issues that were happening could have, ended everything. So but after that day, she was just never the same.
Well, I also, before I forget, George, I want to tell people you have a Facebook group, Together for Sharon.
Yeah.
And do you have another group, Parkinson's?
Yeah, main thing's really just the website. It's Together for Sharon. It's spelled out Together, FOR, and then SHARON.com. We don't accept money. We don't make money. We don't do anything except the point of, again, making sure people know that this disease is out there, that we need to, I think if we got, the whole country involved in understanding it, we would have a cure, but also that, again, today, the focus on caretakers, and it's really just a lot of resources. It has podcasts like ours on there, has different links to other, it's organizations that I couldn't believe it, they're around the whole country. There's Australia, there's Canada, this is affecting everyone everywhere, and might be smaller populations who have it, but when they get it, or they a lot of times the individuals just feel alone, and there's nothing for caretakers. I went through, I think I told you that 20 or 30 companies because we couldn't find caretakers to help, and I had a full-time job. We had to move my mother into a new house close to us. I always swore I'd never put her in the home, but all this just fell on my shoulders, and I didn't know the first thing about any. Of course, I learned fast, but we had to install video cameras in her home because she said that the people we hired were hurting her, but we didn't know if it was the dementia and the Parkinson's, or if she was telling the truth. So it was really just shocking what the whole lack of infrastructure of help for caretakers.
You're absolutely right, George. And I want to encourage the audience, you have to go on Together for Sharon's website, because I want everyone to see your mom. Sharon Ackerman was a beautiful woman. Your mother was beautiful. And I know, as a mom, I'm going to get a clump here, your mom would be so proud of you, of working, honoring her memory the way you are, so she's not forgotten. And that's another thing we have in common, George. You're doing your work in your mom's memory, and I'm doing mine in Matt's memory. Mm-hmm. So Matt won't be forgotten, so that people will know that they lived, and we wish that there was cures for these diseases. And I have a story. Joshua's doctor, the doctor that he used to go to, she asked me about Matt, because Matt looked like he had Parkinson's. He was tested for it, but he didn't have it. But you would, by looking at him, you would think he had it. And she said to me, what did your husband have? And I said he had early onset Alzheimer's. She told me she was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. Okay. And she said, I never thought this would happen to me. And I said, nobody ever does.
Yeah,
right? No one ever.
It could happen to me too. It could happen to anyone in the family. They don't think it's genetic, but it could be from environment. Is really not sure. But my daughter, she's only 10 now, but my wife always looks at her and says she reminds her of my mother. So I'm hoping in the future, when when I'm older, that I hope my children will continue this. So that's the goal. That hopefully someone will. Because if we don't have our families, continue it on, then who will?
Well, I think you're teaching your children valuable life lessons about, when your mom was alive, caring. I know they were very young, but caring, and how you are advocating to raise awareness on Parkinson's, and you're constantly, every day, you are advocating and putting information and advocacy out there. And I tip my hat to you, because you are very resilient. You are really a force doing what you do every day amongst, your job and everything else that you do.
Thanks.
And you're welcome. So I gave the doctor resources. I told her about some resources. She happens to live over the bridge in Staten Island. Excuse me. So I gave her resources that I know of. But you know what, George, you're right. When our loved one gets a diagnosis, whether it's Parkinson's or some kind of dementia, we're not guided. I hope that's changed now. I can only hope it's changed. From what I hear, it depends on who you go to, what doctor you go to. I would love for every doctor's office, and according to the area, have a pamphlet for caregivers. Here's resources to help you. And it's so important. And people don't know about local resources, George. I know I didn't. I had no idea until I needed it. So
Parkinson's is not a lot, because let's say Palm Beach County, there might be 3 million or plus people. Now it's a lot more with all the shifting and moving. But there were only the 3 big organizations, and again, I won't name them. We support all of them, but only one of the 3 were able to even come to our house to help my mother. But even the one that did arrive was just really had some nice programs like boxing and things, but she was too sick at that point. So it's more just it's good, but it's more just support. I wish they had more live things and more people that from the national organizations that were in all the cities and and it just can't because it's expensive. But COVID didn't help. I did a lot of virtual things finally just recently. I'm sure you've seen we did a walk for Parkinson's and through the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and also the symposium where doctors came for a whole day and spoke to patients and caregivers. And we actually did the whole thing, and we just handed out bands for free just for awareness and memory of my mother. But it's always funny because I'm just there, just trying to promote awareness. I'm not there to sell any products or do anything, and people always are so appreciative. And I love the live events. No offense to the online, but the live, because I really feel like everyone's family. We're all in it together. There's no, we're all one purpose, and both your goal and mine, just to make sure people know they're not alone. So there's no better feeling. I had a young lady. She wasn't young, but I like to call her that. She came over to me at the table, and we were passing bracelets and cried. And it wasn't really more for my mom. It was just she knows she's going through what I did when I was taking care of my mother. Because she had I think her husband had Parkinson's. But it's an incredible experience. It makes me think of my mother the whole day when I'm there. And it's just nice to support and be out there in the community. And then my big thing now is with the website. If you've gone togetherforsharon.com, you'll see my little picture on the little. If you scroll down, and it jumps around, but if you click on that, I'm started to do our interviews and articles on different individuals in my community that are making a difference. And we did one a few weeks ago with a young lady who does Rocksteady. It's a boxing program for Parkinson's, and just fascinating to not just hear my story like you do and yours, but to really reach out to the community now and speak to people out there doing it in the field every day. And it's inspiring. And yeah, it's only like a short few, maybe 20 minutes, and it's a written one. I'm going back to the old days where we still had, newspapers and written articles, not podcasts. But I have a few planned. I'm meeting with someone next week. It's they do the Lego project where they actually have Parkinson's patients build Legos, and it really changes their lives. And I'll be speaking with the big university, Florida Atlantic University, who has many programs on nutrition and Tai Chi, karate, and then one I'm excited for is also the ballet of Boca Raton. They do dancing for Parkinson's, and that's really, big time professional ballet. So those are some of the things coming up. I'm excited. They're just kind of interviews like this on the phone, no, voice. No video and things, but it's just nice to post it there and keep the website too new and fresh, and always trying to think of ways to bring new and innovative things to the community. And I think we're reaching over 50,000 people now, from Facebook to Instagram to LinkedIn to Twitter. So you can find me all over the place. It's definitely grown since we spoke 2 years ago, but
yeah,
I'm trying to keep it where it's reasonable, because I also have work and things. But this lately, it's just inspired me, and I do it because it makes me think of my mother, and also I love helping people. So.
Yeah, boxing is. I read that there's boxing and exercising. Matter of fact, Joshua's doctor said she was going to be going to exercise and doing the boxing. Yeah. I think that it's just it's great. I know you've grown in 2 years since I've talked to you, and because folks, George has been on before, and I see that you've grown, and because you work at it every day. Excuse me, and
my goal is always to try. It's not easy, but to post once a day, every day. But it's not 300, as 365 days if it's just you. I don't have any help like you. It's really just me. My wife supports me, but I don't have Together for Sharon. It's really just me and my family and my mother. So it's not like we're a big company. We're not
right.
Just to remind everyone, like you, we're not a foundation. I didn't do that because I didn't want to get all into the accounting and all this and that. I just it's really just volunteering, and it's just a website. It's not sometimes people think it's a company. It's not.
Do you still give out the wristbands of awareness, George?
Yeah, luckily, to be honest, it went down a lot because I can't afford this. I pay for everything.
Oh, okay.
When I started, I try and limit it, but I started, it went viral. So, like you remember, it was a dream. And if you want to read to the viewers about the story about the band, it's on the website. It's really interesting, but so I get 2 or 3 a month. Unfortunately, today I got one. They gave me the bad address, so it came back. I wasted, $3. So not easy, but it did calm down. I don't think I could have kept it up where it is, but I like to hand them out. Like we must have handed a few thousand at the events we went to, so we do still do them. I still will mail them, but it's sad because someone once asked for several, and I just can't. It's $5 each one, and the mailing and all that, and I don't want to bore your viewers, but it's all out of our pocket. And we also donate a few thousand a year to the American Parkinson's Disease Association, just because we want to keep these programs going. But so yes, I still do, and I wear it every day. I have one on my desk at work. So the band really represents that individual, whether it's a caretaker or a patient, or someone. I call them Parkinson's fighters. When they're wearing it, that they'll never forget that we're out there and thinking of it.
That's beautiful. I have one. I got mine
charging.
2 years ago.
And when I first started, I tried, but I don't I'm not in this for money at all. So we just wanted to wipe our hands and show everyone that we're not here for that. Someone actually at an event live said he wants one, and he threw $5 and ran away. So the second I got home, took his name, his number, his $5. I deposited it right to the donation for the Parkinson, the ADPA. I wrote his name on it, and then I emailed him a receipt. Because again, again, we're not there for that. So.
What would you have done differently, George? Because I know, hindsight is 20/20. I know I would have done things differently if I knew about resources when Matt was alive, and that's the one of the many things I'm passionate about, and why I do this show, is because I want people to know they're not alone. There are resources. There are people to help them. I wish I knew about when Matt was alive. And I'm sure you wish you knew about resources available when your mom was alive. But, 3 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. There wasn't as much information available to us.
It's probably one of the best questions I've had ever in any podcast or speaking, because it's really interesting. I don't think I'd do anything different. Because when you're going through it, that it's just so stressful. There's not really much.
Mm-hmm.
I tried everything, so there's nothing. When I always, my whole life, whether it was helping my mother or school or anything, I always say I never want to regret something. So when I look back, I don't think because of what's still even 2 years, 3 years later, there's not anything different out there. The only thing I do know is some programs and people, but they still can't do what we would have needed. So. Sadly, to tell you that, to be honest, if we were starting out now, the only thing I wish I had is someone like you or others out there. There's a lot of groups I joined at the time, but didn't have time to read and things. So it would have been nice, but even those are not. There's no answer. So until there's a cure, I believe that I still would have done everything the same. I don't regret anything, and the only difference would be, again, if there was a cure, I would regret that she never got the chance for that. But if we rewound, like you mentioned, I like it a lot. I think that's the best question I've ever had for 3 years now. So I'm not kidding.
Well, thank you.
I don't have a good answer because I think I would do nothing different.
So. Well, I was because sometimes people say, "Oh, yeah, I would have done this differently," and there's a lot of caregivers have a lot of guilt, unjustified guilt, and I certainly know about that. What I would have done differently would have been, I think I would have hired someone to help me navigate the hospice process. I think that's the only thing I would have done different, because with Alzheimer's, unfortunately, you're going to die from that. That's a fact, folks. Sounds harsh, but it's the truth. And I knew Matt was going to die from this. I just wish I had someone to help me navigate. And that's what I would have done differently.
Well, my problem with that is I did the same thing, but we had to go through hundreds of, at least 100 people to find the right person. So when my mother was very ill the last year, we had to spend about $12,000 a month, which is not reasonable. But she needed round-the-clock care, and it took me probably almost 6 to 8 months. We finally found a dream team at the last month or two, and they were like a literal heaven. I could go to my life again and know that she loved them and she was safe and there was no problem. But the 6 to 8 months before that, I would get my mother called 16, 17 times every few hours, not a day, just telling me how bad the people are, how they're not helping, how they're ignoring. We even caught one time on video that one of the people slept over. My mother, I saw her, sitting up, asking for help, and they were just sleeping and never came to her. So that was going on for 6 to 8 months. So if you look back, you really can't. You can never even you regret what you didn't do, because you don't know if those people would have been even good. Then you would have had to find the right one, and that's another thing for a caregiver. I don't know if they know, but a lot of people, unfortunately, in the nursing and all that, the people you hire, they're not nurses. Sometimes they, hire help to caretakers, but they're not trained. They don't want to even be there. Some of them, One took my mother to her own house, out of my mother's house, dragging her all over town. There's just some of the, I tried to block some of the things because I wrote a journal. If you go to my Facebook in the past, I've shared like all the journal. I've had like 100 entries, and I would put them on Facebook. And sometimes I share them again if they come up as stories. But some of the things are just, horror stories. So you're not just caring for your loved one. You're also trying to find the right people to surround. You don't want just anyone. And then if you can't afford that, you might have to have a home, and the home to another world of a story. And I had a nurse tell me once, a lot of families don't even, they put their loved one, unfortunately, in another state if they're not living there in a home, and then that's it. They never see them. I was shocked when I heard that. But that's just, everyone. My mother, was my best friend. I mean, we spoke like 10 times a day, and I would never have let her just, not been home with us. So.
Yeah, that's it's very hard to get help. My dad had dementia. He had fallen at home, fractured his hip. I tried to tell my mom she would have a rough time taking care of him, and I encouraged her to place him, but she had to find out for herself. And the help wasn't coming, and they weren't reliable, and she had to place my father because it was too much for her. And it was. My father was, he was a big dude, and, my mother was older. She was in her 70s. So it's difficult. Help is hard to get, resources when you don't know. And I have to ask you, because you are a guy, George, and I want to get it from a male perspective and as a son, because I know what my son went through when his dad died. How are you doing with your grieving process? Because I know men kind of, in this society are not encouraged to show their emotion, which is wrong. And I know that people think, oh, well, they're gone, so get over it. There is no getting over it. And I'm trying to change how people think about grieving.
Right.
And, we will always carry the pain of our loss with us. And we will always love and miss our loved ones. And I want to know, have you gone for grief counseling? How are you doing with your grieving?
Yeah, there isn't a day, a minute, or a second that I don't think of my mother. Even when we have great events with family, like we had a little birthday recently. My littlest son turned 6 and had a little dinosaur thing. I thought about how much she would have loved to have been there. And again, she would have only been about 73, so she would have been with us. But I think the best thing that's ever helped me, and I recommend other people too, is starting togetherforsharon.com and being able to speak to people like you and other individuals in the field, and also just keeping her memory alive is the only reason I was still able to function and move on. And, they offer, for a little while, like a month or two, I spoke to one of the counselors, but, it wasn't real. You're more like, if you have friends and things, it's a little better, but they don't know you, it's more like strangers. So I think for any other caretaker, the best way is to join the support groups on Facebook. Are pretty nice because you meet people, but then there's always someone who's not nice. So, but know, I think the thing that made me, I always hate bringing it up, but when I started Together for Sharon, the first few weeks I was new, and obviously I started corporations and things, but not like this. But someone actually on a radio station, I think I told you, said that my mother didn't pass away and it wasn't real, because I was asking for $2 for the band because it was expensive. So after that, it was it was upsetting, because it's like, well, people do make things up and lie and things, but should never accuse somebody who lost their loved one. It was really sad, and that's when we decided never to ask for anything again. Just do it because that's what I really wanted to do, is to help people and to remember my mother. But you're always getting that one person. There's millions that are incredible. So we continued on, and now today we have like a very strong awareness group, and people know me now, and we're actually getting big time people finally contacting me. And I like podcasts because you can get your story out. I was recently, I'm sure you might have seen it, interview for the Parkinson's Project, which was really fascinating. He's a professional broadcaster who interviews different individuals throughout the country dealing with either caretakers or people with Parkinson's. But it's been doing it for a year, but it's really fascinating. And if you have time, if you want to look on our website, there's under the links in togetherforsharon.com, and then go to podcasts. You'll see that podcast. But it's just great to be able to meet people and share the story, and also share theirs too. Like, I like to share your story. It's not just about me. So
I think you're doing a wonderful job. I know that I highly recommend grief counseling for people. I go for grief counseling. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. Mm-hmm. It's okay to say I need help. And holidays, they're rough. Special occasions, they're tough. It's like we know they're gone, but it's just like that extra reminder that they're not here to enjoy celebrations like birthdays and different life occasions. And we'll always think that. I do.
I agree.
I want to make sure of something, George. Do you yourself, are you having a podcast show?
Actually, no, but I probably have to learn more technology. I like again, it's old school, but I used to work in the newspaper when I was in college and high school, and I like to interview more, like where I just interview someone and type it up and, put it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm doing, but no, not the podcast. I think is more technical, and I could probably figure out. Everyone's using Zoom now, but it's harder.
Hey, if I could do it.
No, I like.
Thank you. If I could do it, you can.
I enjoy more going on other people's and just doing my own, but I'm doing more of just the old long form type interview on the phone that no one will hear the voice. I just like the old days where you have a real, newspaper type. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe someday in the future I'd do a podcast, but again, it's hard. But everyone has, work, schedule, families, and it's sometimes difficult to get. I think I made an interview with someone from a university for 4 months from now, so it's not easy. But I definitely love the idea of the podcast, but everybody's got a podcast now.
Yeah, that's true. They do, and I just keep plugging along. I just enjoy what I do. I don't even remember now, George, where I saw your initial video, but I saw it on Facebook somewhere.
Yeah, we made about 30. My wife and I. It's like different topics, like how Parkinson patients might cope with COVID. What is Together for Sharon? My mother's story, my story. All those are also on the website, but I stopped doing those because there's so many topics you can have, and we ran out of topics. If any of your viewers would ever love to, hear a few minutes of me talking about something, but if you go to our website, you'll see, more on us, my mother's story, my story about the bands and donations and fundraising partnerships, and then my favorite, the media section where I have, magazines, video articles. I have one last story. It's touching. If you go to the website, we just added this a week ago, but another incredible individual just saw my story, my mother, and it was on Facebook, and she painted some artwork for us, and I don't know if you saw it, but it's tulips, because that's what this stands for, that represents Parkinson's, the tulip, and they just, honestly, this is probably some of the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen, and I credited her, and we added it to the website, but she said she's mailing them to me, and we're going to have them, and whenever I do shows and things, or events, not shows, but I want to put those on the my table so people can see. But the art, things like artwork and music too, are huge therapies that I'm trying to also interview individuals who work in the art and the music industry that help Parkinson's, and Although we also added one thing, if you scroll on the main page to the bottom, where I play guitar for about 20 years. I'm not the best, but I was able to have a very rare moment on December 20th, 2019, when my mother was still alive, but it was only a few weeks, some short time before she passed away. She couldn't really do much, but she could still understood that we were there. And one of her favorite songs ever was Memory from the Broadway show Cats. She actually took me as a kid to see it together. And we had a music therapist, and she sang, and I got to play guitar with her. And my mother actually stopped speaking for a while, and she actually said at the end she loved it, and she clapped. That was the last time I think she ever really spoke to us. But I have that video on my website now. I added it, so it's touching.
Wow, that's a precious memory. I like that song. Matter of fact, I just went on YouTube to hear it. And music does help. I mean, music is proven to help people who have dementia. I mean, Matt loved Johnny Cash. Yeah. So I would play Johnny Cash when I wanted to bathe him, and he was like a little agitated, and he would relax. He went to the dentist. I said to the hygienist, put on Johnny Cash. And she did, and he did, pretty good. He got antsy near the end, but he did pretty good because he liked listening to, he liked that music. And I think you're doing a wonderful work, George. It's hard for me to describe to the audience. It was 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago. I think you've been on twice. Mm-hmm. When I saw George, when I saw you, and I heard you, I started to cry because you reminded me, your story, very similar to mine. And the fact that your mom and Matt died on the same day just was mind-boggling to me. And I said, I have got to talk to this guy. I got to get this guy on my show. And I was so touched by your dedication and your work. And folks, I have people on this show because I want you to hear their stories. And, what George went through, what his mom went through, you need to know about it. We need to talk about Parkinson's. We need to make people aware of Parkinson's. And I'm sure if you have a TV or radio, you've heard about Camp Lejeune and what happened there with the water. And, people could have gotten Parkinson's from that. Mm-hmm. And the environment, the pesticides and everything. Yeah. But you are bringing awareness to Parkinson's, and you're honoring your mother's memory, and you're integrating your grieving with your living. And I think that's beautiful. I think you're a beautiful person. You have a beautiful heart.
You too.
Thank you. Excuse me. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, George?
No, I think we've covered it all, but no matter what, I want all your, viewers and listeners to know that, again, there's someone like me out there. It might not be me, but for Alzheimer's, but it's you and this, we're all family and a team in this fight, and none of us, unfortunately, will ever rest until there's a cure for all of the diseases. And just, so I believe if there's more awareness and we all work together, we likely would have already had a cure for some of them. I mean, I don't want to get into certain things that have epidemics, but you can see how quickly, people do come together in certain issues and world problems. But I think we need more attention. I think there is finally, if you look up online, federal Congress, the United States Congress is finally going to look at a bill trying to support Parkinson's, which is coming up. So that's like one of the most exciting things in the whole field of, I even signed it to go to, I spoke to a congressman about it, but it's supposed to go up to Congress, and this could be huge to have finally something that's mentioning Parkinson's disease nationally. So I think a lot of things in the future should be good to come. And again, I pray for everyone else that someday, for caretakers and for Parkinson's fighters, that there's a cure and we can get back to life and enjoying other things. And my mother, if she was still here, would have been sitting next to me in Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and all these times and laughing, and we would argue over nonsense, but at least we were together and joke around and laugh at the end of the day. But we always sometimes right after we did it, we kept the seat empty for my mother. So it's not the same. It'll never be the same, but we just have to keep the memories alive. So thank you and your listeners again for letting me even have time, because even this is coping and helps me a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting the link eventually and sharing it throughout the country and continuing to help one another, because like I said, I can't do it alone, and I am just one person, but I think all of us together, we're multiple people making a big and courageous difference in the country. Someone's going to hear all of us because we won't stop. So they're going to hear it, whether they want to hear us or not. So thanks again, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, George Ackerman, for coming on and sharing your story and honoring your mother's memory. Sharon Ruth Ackerman. Folks, you need to go on the website. I'm telling you. Go, and the link will be in the blog, so please read the blog, Together for Sharon. And George also has a Facebook group, Together for Sharon, and that link will be in the blog. You have to see the website. You have to look at all that George is doing, and his website's phenomenal. Information, there's pictures, there's so much information on there that will touch your heart. If it doesn't touch your heart, then I don't think you have one, because you cannot be on that website and not have your heart touched unless it's made out of stone. I'm a Jersey girl. I'm just saying it straight up like it is. And I just really, if you have Parkinson's, and you want information and you need support, go on the website, join Together for Sharon, and become involved. We need to speak up about these diseases. We need to demand a cure, and we need to be seen. We need to show our journeys, show our loved ones, and share our experiences. And I just want to thank you, the listeners, for listening. Please share the show to help other people. This is why I have the show. It's to help others, and that's my mission, my vision. And it's a way of honoring my husband, Matt, his memory. And Matt is and always will be my catalyst, my inspiration. And I want to thank Jeanne White, her station manager, Passion World Talk Radio, who writes the blog, produces the show. And I want to thank Lillian Cauldwell, who's CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio, makes this all possible. Chatting with Betsy. Yeah, I know the name of my show. It's for free to subscribe to on Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, and iHeart is just a few places where you can subscribe and hear my shows, hear the phenomenal guests that can help you, that are resources. You are not alone, folks. You may feel like you're alone. You're not alone. I'm here. George is here. And we want to help you. And that's really it. I mean, my passion, George's passion, is to help people. And I really encourage everyone, if you know someone with Parkinson's, if you have Parkinson's, you want to learn about Parkinson's, go on George's website, Together for Sharon, and join Together for Sharon's Facebook group. You will become educated. I think it's phenomenal what you do, George. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, to please be kind and shine your light bright. Because if we were all kind and shined our light, it'd be a much brighter, happier world. And that's what I believe. And I'm grateful. I am so grateful for people like George who are honoring their loved one's memory, and they are doing something. They are being an advocate and helping other people. And I'll tell you something, folks. In my experience, the best advocates, the best people who are helping caregivers are other caregivers. You want to know why? Because we know what it's like. We walked the journey. We were in the trenches. And we know what you're going through. And we were here to throw you a lifeline, which I wish somebody threw me when I started out. But that's how I feel. That's my opinion. So that's it for today, folks. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Until we chat again, be safe and blessings to you all. Bye-bye now.